today I will be sharing my experience with you with the Nigerian Student Express. A lot has happened since last year, of course, the pandemic happened. But beginning of last year, January 2020, there was an edu fair in Lagos and Abuja, Nigeria. And at this edu fair, it was introduced and announced that the Canadian government will be starting a pilot program for Nigerian students to potentially fast-track the processing of study permits application. Now at this edu fair, it was announced that there's going to be the Nigerian Student Express, and everyone was really happy about it. But one of the very unique things about this announcement, which was different from most things that are typically announced, was that we couldn't find it online. So we in Canada who didn't attend this event couldn't find this information online, which is where I would verify everything and I would ask people to verify any immigration information. So this was kind of very unusual with Canadian immigration to announce something this serious, something this big, without actually putting it out on their website. Some contacts were made to IRCC. Lots of them, I found some on Twitter, which I also responded to, about the program, stating that if it does exist, let's have an announcement online so that at least most people can verify the authenticity of this information. And we were told that it does exist. We should contact the visa office in Lagos to find out more information about the program criteria. Program criteria that was shared, so I'm going to be discussing it in this video as well. But since January 2020, when this was announced, nothing really happened. There was no push for it. Applications were not processed through it. Like, at least I did lots of study permit applications last year, and there was no way to say, oh, you're applying through the Nigerian Student Express or anything like that. What we did was we continued to process clients' application as we normally did, as we did in the past. But of course, 2020 was such a unique year for everyone, and not everything went as planned, as the same process as things would be. So today, I just want to talk about my experience with my clients for the Nigerian Student Express stream. But before I dive into it, I just want to take everybody a step back let's talk about what this is and where this might have stemmed from and what this is all about. Now, the Nigerian Student Stream is this pilot program that promises to process study permits application who meet the requirements for this program within 20 days. Most of them, they said, they didn't say all of it. They said most will be processed within 20 days. And this program is actually very similar to the Student Direct Stream that was introduced a few years ago for legal residents of certain countries. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pop up a table here and we're going to go through this program side by side, because they're very similar in the requirements, and you can see how, of course, this could potentially come to be and would be a good thing too for Nigerian students who are looking to study in Canada. So we're going to pop up the table and then we're going to walk through the requirements together. So now, who can apply for this program? For the Nigerian Student Stream, it is Nigerian citizens living in Nigeria. For the Student Direct Stream, it is actually for legal residents. Legal residents. So it doesn't matter what your citizenship is, but if you live in one of these countries legally, you could actually apply through the Student Direct Stream. And these countries are China, India, Morocco, Pakistan, Philippines, Senegal, and Vietnam. So these are the 7 countries that are on that list. The next thing is that programs actually do require language tests. So with the language test, you need to be at CLB 7, be it English or French. That's what you need to be at to be able to apply for this program. Proof of guaranteed investment certificate is required for the Student Direct Stream. This is proof of $10,000 guaranteed investment certificate in a bank that is insured by Canadian Deposit Insurance Corporation. And then this is not required for the Nigerian Student Stream right now. However, what is required for the Nigerian Student Express, I keep mixing that up, Nigerian Student Express, I'm going to call it NSE, and I'm going to call the Student Direct Stream SDS. So what is required for the NSE is actually my bank statement. My bank statement showing that you have 30,000 Canadian dollars minimum for 6 months, and you would also have to provide 12-month bank statement, bank history of that particular bank account that you'll be providing as well. For the SDS, you have to have proof that you paid your first year tuition. At this time, proof of first year tuition is not mandatory for the Nigerian Student Express, the NSE, but of course I strongly advise every student looking to study in Canada to pay school fees. It's very important. It's an important piece of your study permit application. So it's not required for NSE, but it's required for SDS. And then of course, for you to even qualify for this, to even meet the requirements for this program, you actually have to have an admission to a post-secondary designated learning institution in Canada. So your bachelor's, postgraduate diploma, master's, PhD, those are the level of education that are considered for this program. And of course, you have to have medical exams. Medical exams has to be completed. Both streams require you to have medical exams. So you can see that they are actually very, very, very similar. These programs are very similar, and it's led to lots of higher processing time, increased number of students coming in from those other countries that have been listed. Now, it's not tied to you meeting this requirement does not mean that your application will be approved. So I really, really want to state that. It doesn't mean that, but it does increase processing time. If you can show this, then the officers are it's easier for the officers to quickly make their decisions. Now, for my Nigerian students, this is actually a good addition to the application process, because many times applications get refused, and sometimes when we talk to the government and when we find out what's going on, when we read the news about why there's such an increased refusal rate for countries from Africa, from Nigeria, most of the reasons we're hearing is fraudulent bank statements, we're not able to verify information and all of that. This is going to eliminate that. If your banks are on the list and are able to provide this, then the officers are more confident in pushing forward and making a decision on your application in a more timely manner. So now I've talked about the requirements of the program. I've talked about how it came to be and what's been going on. Now, if you've submitted an application, what happens? Now I'm going to share with you real experience of 3 of our most recent clients who have been recently approved through this program, and what we did when we got the request for them to provide information. And for these 3 applicants, when we applied online. There was nothing that we did to say we want this application process through the Nigerian Student Express. We didn't do any of that. It was just a normal study permit application like we have always done, and they got the request for the next step. So I'm going to be talking about these 3 unique clients, one after the other. And the reason I'm sharing this is so that if you're in the process, or you've already received your letter, you're not sure what to do, or you're planning to apply, get some tips out of this so that you know how to position yourself and apply properly as well. So one of the major requirements when these letters come is actually that you provide my bank statement. What is my bank statement? So my bank statement is a one-ticket bank statement that replaces your normal bank statement that you would provide on your visa applications. It includes a ticket number and a passcode that would allow different embassies to actually verify your bank statement by themselves online in a more efficient way, and they can determine that it's genuine and all of that. When the request comes, this is what IRCC is hoping to get from you. Right now in Nigeria, there are 15 banks that currently have this option and service for you to request for your bank account, and we're going to talk about them in detail. So the 15 banks you can actually have access to. Check out who those banks are in the link that I'm going to be including in the description box here for you as well. So the first client that I'll be talking about today is Mrs. O, and she's 38 years old. She was coming to complete a postgraduate diploma program in Canada at the University of Manitoba, and we received that letter, to the request letter, that she would meet the requirements for the NSD. She was required to provide bank statements and provide IELTS results. Those were the 2 things that came on her request. And when we got this, of course, we shared this with the client. The client came back to us and stated that yes, our bank is on the list, Stanbic IBTC is on the list. However, the bank statement that we had included in this application was a US dollar account, and right now Stanbic IBTC cannot provide my visa bank statement for US dollar account. This was at the time when we applied, so I really stress that. What I would say here is, if you're applying, always check with your bank what they can do and what they cannot do, because these banks are constantly updating themselves and adding things and adding services to them, and especially now that they know that embassies are also looking for this thing. So at the time, my client couldn't provide this to us. So what we did was we wrote a letter to IRCC. I wrote a cover letter to IRCC explaining the situation, and also I requested my client to provide an updated bank statement showing that they have held this funds for the period of time that is required, 12-month history, and also in addition to that, I asked that they provide a letter of reference from the bank. A new letter of reference from the bank, verifying their identity, verifying that they've been banking with them for a period of time, so that immigration is comfortable. They feel satisfied verified that yes, this is a genuine account. It was provided to us in the application. It is coming back to us again complete, and the funds are still there, and everything went well. She provided IELTS as well. She had CLB 8, so it was above the minimum requirements. We submitted the IELTS results with the new bank statements and letters. She also did medicals, and her application was approved. Right, I'm just going to show you the timelines because a lot of people wonder, did it take 20 days? No, it did not take 20 days. But here is her timeline. We submitted the application on November 20th, and then we got the request letter in December. And of course, we got the passport request on February 5th. And by February 20th, she had received her passport stamp to come study in Canada. So you can see that the processing time here was not anything close to 20 days. Okay, so the next student is Miss T. Miss T actually came to us after her study permit was refused. Very, very sad situation because she'd already started studying online. It was such a traumatic experience for her because she didn't know what to do. She came with us, signed up for our visa refusal management service, where we go deep into why the officer refused the original application to find gaps that would have existed in the application. Worked with her and her parents, who were her sponsor, to provide more details about the application, to add more to the application, see what we could do to make it stronger, to explain things and convince the officer about the application. So we did that and we reapplied for her. Now when we reapplied, of course, we got the request letter as well, provide IELTS and also provide my bank visa statement as well. Now, when we did that, her case was unique in the sense that the bank statements that her parents had provided were investment statements. These were not your regular bank statements. There was agro partnership, there was stamping, but they were all investment statements. So again, the banks could not provide my visa bank statement for those. The investment agro partnership could not provide those as well. So what we did, same thing as we did for Miss O, we asked for a new letter, new bank statement, proof that the money is still there. And this particular client who did not actually have IELTS at the time of this request, but she was willing to write IELTS. So she went ahead and registered for it. She did the IELTS, she did her medicals, and of course I did a cover letter explaining client situation, also convincing immigration again that this client still does meet the requirements for study permit. We submitted the application, and here is her timeline as well. So the application was submitted on November 20th. We received the request letter in December 16th. There was another request letter for an updated admission letter that came on January 20th. And then of course, by February 6th, we received the original passport request for her. And then by February 25th, we got her passport stamped, and she is now on her way, getting ready to come to Canada. So again, I'm sharing this unique situation, different types of bank statement, different situations. Did she write IELTS? She eventually did write it, but we had already submitted information because the timelines as well. We stated that she couldn't write it, but she was registering for it. And when the results came out, we provided that to IRCC. So different things, you know, different ways to handle it. But this application was still approved as well. So this is Mrs. N. She's 31 years old, coming for a master's program at Crandall University. Applied for a study permit. Her spouse is sponsoring her. Unique in the sense that her spouse is actually in the United States and sponsoring her from there. She is in Nigeria. She also had some funding as well to show for the application, and her spouse had funding as well, was the main sponsor. So he had the most money that was required for the application process. And of course, we got the NSE letter as well for her. So when the NSE letter came, we provided that to her to provide the bank statement. We knew that the banks in the US was not going to be able to provide that to us. So what we requested again was new bank statements, again, fresh bank statements. And why are we always requesting our clients to provide bank statements again when they're already provided? It is because time has passed since this application was submitted. And I want to still convince the immigration officer that my client still has the money. It's been set aside. It's still there, just like I had said in the initial application, and I need that proof to support the application. So they provided that to us. Mrs. N was able to actually get GTB bank statements for my bank that we were able to use for the application. With the letter from her husband and her GTB My Visa bank statements, we were able to package an application and send it for her. Now, did she have IELTS? No, she did not. And when she is in Nigeria, she wasn't able to register for IELTS to get a result within that 30-day period that IRCC had provided to us. So again, we wrote a letter to IRCC. Due to the timeline, I wrote the letter, due to the timeline, she's unable to meet this IELT requirement, but she does still have the funding. She does still meet the requirements for the program. I mean, if she did not, she would not have even gotten the admission, and is really looking forward to studying in Canada. And I'm going to share the timelines as well with you, just so that you can see what timeline it was for her. So we submitted her application on October 16th, 2020. And then we received the request letter in November of 2020. After the request letter came, we submitted that. We responded to that and provided all the required documents. And she got medical request. It was an approval in principle that came for her first, and then of course a passport request that came. And by February 20th, her passport was stamped and she's going to be in Canada here in April. It was super exciting to work with this client. And you could see here that every situation was different. One of the things I try to do with my clients, if you don't have something, you just have to explain it to IRCC. Because especially when this requirement is for a pilot program, it's not been fully announced, we've not been told that this is the new requirement to apply. Everyone is just doing the best they can. And if you're already caught in the middle, you've already received your admission, you don't have IELTS and all of that, your funds are in an account that is not supported by my bank statement, you don't have to go move your things. You don't have to switch things around just to meet this requirement, at least for now, because it is not mandatory right now. It just helps with processing your application faster. But if you're doing this application right now and you want to make sure that you are actually able to push it forward, it's qualified under this category, this criteria, you see what it is right now. You know what it is. So what I would advise you to do is ensure that your funds are set aside for the required period of time. If you can take IELTS, take it. And talking about IELTS, it actually does not matter what type of IELTS you take. As of now, academic or general would be just fine as long as it has not expired. So take the IELTS exams. If you want to do medicals, do the medicals. One of the things that I did with some of my clients was most people would not do medicals until it's been requested. So basically, it's a pilot program, like I said. We don't have a lot of information on it. IRCC hasn't actually come up to put out information on what the requirements of this program really is and how it would be administered, or what they're doing on the back end and the exceptions that they're giving. Now, what I've done in this video is share as at March 2021 what has happened with my clients, some of my clients that have requested this Nigerian Student Express letter. So what I have done is talk about my own experience with my clients that have requested the Nigerian Student Express letter, what I have done and how I have been able to manage and walk through this request with my clients and ensure that we are still able to satisfy IRCC, that they still meet the requirements to study in Canada. So things are changing. Like I said, it's a pilot program. Things could totally change, that this could become the mandatory requirements for everybody. There could be a new way to actually apply and state that you're doing this, but right now it doesn't exist. We know what the requirements are, like I've stated. We know what it is. As much as you can work to meet the requirements for the program, do it, because of course it's going to help you. Anything to fast track the processing would be great. Hopefully, eventually, by the time the process is more streamlined, IRCC will actually start meeting that 20-day processing time for applicants that do meet the criteria. We're still seeing how that plays out with many other applications, but so far, in my own experience, this is just a glimpse of what we have seen and what we've had to work with. Now, if you're looking to apply for study permit this year and you're not sure where to start, you're not sure how to package your application, the documents, you have questions, you want to know what to do, I do have a very, very detailed course on how to apply for study permit. It's the ultimate guide, I call it. What I did in the course is I pulled all of my years of experience and things that I've worked with clients with different types of applications, different scenarios. I pulled all of those together in this course to help guide the next applicant who is looking to represent themselves on the application. Now, if you're looking to do it yourself, you want to actually watch this course before you actually submit that application to ensure that you don't miss anything. Now, if you need full representation, if you need assistance, my team and I, we would be so happy to represent you on your study permit application. Canada is looking for international students. International students are still some of the biggest contributors to the Canadian economy and means a lot to the Canadian government. So you could even see all of the exemptions and exceptions that have come into place even with COVID being around for international students. So from getting admitted into a school of your choice, to apply for your study permit, I'll be more than happy to work with you on that. We work with our clients to ensure that from the beginning to the end, we do everything we can to represent you properly to ensure that you have a good chance of receiving that study permit application. So that's it. That's my experience with the Nigerian Student Express. I might have an update to this if things change drastically, if things get better or new things come up and we hear more from the government as well as to what they're doing with this program. But as at March 2021, this is it. This is my experience, and I hope that this was able to help you and guide you and give you some tips and steps here or there on how to package your own application and respond to these letters when they do come for you. All right, thank you very much, and I will see you in my next video. Bye-bye.